our attention to the need for civic engagement, especially as we gather on the day that marks the 50th anniversary of the revolutionary Dr. Martin Luther King's March on Washington. Yeah. It is our hope that the elected city councilmen would continue to work on the path that Dr. King has created. Having said this, I present to you our moderator, Paul D. Benedetto. Paul is a reporter and producer for DNA Info New York, a hyper-local news website covering the 5 boroughs, neighborhood by neighborhood. He lives in and reports on Bedford-Stuyvesant.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Larissa. Thank you to our hosts, the Coalition for the Improvement of Bedford-Stuyvesant and their co-sponsors, the Pratt Area Community Council, Bed-Stuy YMCA, Bridge Street Development Corporation, Bedford-Stuyvesant Restoration Corporation, and Neighborhood Housing Services. And of course, thank you, everybody, for coming out to tonight's forum between 4 of the candidates for Brooklyn's 36th City Council District. Before I begin with my introduction, a brief disclosure. Tameka Tillard, the managing director of CIBS, has agreed to recuse herself from tonight's proceedings because her husband is one of the candidates in the race. She was not involved in any capacity in the planning or execution of tonight's forum. Each of the candidates has been informed of this and agrees to the debate's terms. I again thank CIBS and its co-sponsors for hosting this forum. For those who are not intimately familiar with what it does, the City Council is our city government's legislative body. What that means is it creates the bills that eventually become passed into law in New York City by our mayor. 51 members of the City Council also monitor the performance of certain city agencies, and through the budget process, help fund those agencies and the districts that you live in. Members of the City Council also use that budget to earmark funds for your district called member items, and that money is used to fix roads, open senior centers, and do many of the things that help make your district what it is. In short, the person you elect as city councilman will be your representative in city government. Today we have 4 of the candidates for city council. A 5th candidate, Reverend Robert Waterman of Antioch Baptist Church, could not make it tonight because Antioch is having a church revival. Each of the candidates will have 3 minutes to answer each of the questions. At the 30-second mark, soft music will begin to play, and candidates will be allowed a brief 30-second rebuttal at my discretion. I want to stress to each of the candidates that you're to respect each other and to respect the audience's time. To the members of the audience, you should have submitted your questions by now. If not, please do so. And finally, I'm going to allow each of the 4 candidates who are here to introduce themselves, starting with Reverend Conrad Tillard.
Good evening. I'm Reverend Conrad Tillard. I'm the senior minister of the Nazarene Congregational United Church of Christ. I am a candidate, obviously, in the 36th Council District. I am a long-term, 30-year community activist and advocate. I believe that as a pastor and a parish minister, that my ministry has been defined by trying to establish the kingdom of God on earth as it is in heaven. I believe that I am called and have been a minister that has been engaged in helping to feed the hungry, clothe the naked, to set free the captives, and to make sure that justice rolls down like water and water like a mighty stream, righteousness like a mighty stream. Since I've been in Bedford-Stuyvesant, one of the primary areas that I'm focused on is the area of education. I volunteer and I'm on the board at Boys and Girls High School, working very closely with the principal, as well as at Bedford Academy, and also have recently been asked to co-chair the Stakeholders Committee. I believe that education is the single most determinative factor in an individual's life, and that's why I've dedicated so much time. I'm a 2-time co-PTA president. I have 4 children in public schools, 5 that will be in public, the 5th one will also attend public schools. I'm a product of public schools. I'm very, very proud to have graduated from the University of Pennsylvania, graduated from Union Theological Seminary at Columbia, Princeton Theological Seminary, Harvard. I went to Harvard Divinity School and Harvard John F. Kennedy School of Government. But I'm most proud as an urban minister to have a PhD from Sidewalk University. I just left the hospital where I had to deliver the last rites to one of my members. And the reason why I open with that is that as a pastor, I'm intimately involved in the needs of people in urban communities, real life problems, real life people. And I think it's very important in our political system that we have people that bring a basic common sense understanding and an intimate understanding of what everyday people's lives are like in this community. And so I'm very, very happy to be here, and I look forward to engaging in an important conversation tonight about these vital issues that affect all of us. Lastly, people say, I vote for the president, I vote for Congress. But I tell them the most important election is your local election. And I hope that we are able to have an informed conversation this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Tillard. Mr. Cornegie.
Good evening. Good evening. My name is Robert Cornegie Jr. And first and foremost, I want to say thank you to SIBS and its partnering organizations for hosting this tonight. I feel exceptionally blessed to benefit from tonight because those partnering organizations, SIBS, Pratt Area Community Council, Neighborhood Housing Service, Bridge Street, YMCA, and Restoration, I've had the pleasure of working with each one of them intimately on issues in and around this community that's disproportionate to other communities. So first and foremost, I'm going to start by saying I'm a husband and father of 6, 5 of which are still in Department of Education school systems. I have a child in every facet of the Department of Education. I have a child with an IEP. I have a child in gifted and talented, and I have 3 children in charter. I'm currently a legislative policy analyst for New York City Council on the committees of aging and veterans, and have had the opportunity to write 2 landmark pieces of policy on Occupy Wall Street, which is a very landmark decision made by the City Council to support the Constitution and those who assembled in Zuccotti Park, as well as the service member Chen piece, which called on the Department of Justice to psychologically evaluate its service members periodically through their tenure. And I look to do the same thing from City Council and the NYPD. I'm also the Vice Chair of Health and Social Services for Community Board 3, as well as the President of the Vanguard Independent Democratic Association. And in those roles, I've had an opportunity to serve and work in this community for over 20 years. I'm a sports person. I played professional basketball and I lived in Europe for 15 years. And the first thing I did when I came back to my beloved Bed-Stuy was to open a residence for mentally ill chemical abusers. And I did that with funding that was my own. I felt as though I owed my community the way that I was blessed to help those that were less fortunate, and I was able to operate that with my own funds for a few years before I found out what an RFP was. But it was already too late by then. But I've served in this community for the last 20 years, and I've served solely here. My attention has been focused on the betterment of Bedford-Stuyvesant, and it's been focused on increasing the quality of life for Bedford-Stuyvesant's residents, and for that I'm very proud. So again, thank you.
Mr. Ford.
Good evening. My name is Kirsten John Foy, and I'm running for City Council here in Bedford-Stuyvesant, Crown Heights, and Weeksville to provide a new generation of innovative leadership. I was born and raised in Central Brooklyn. I was educated in its public schools, and I'm raising my family here. I've been in public service all of my adult life as a civil rights activist and a labor organizer and a high-ranking public official. I have a record of achieving progressive policy change that results in positive change for our people and our communities. I've been at the forefront of helping pass laws to reform the Bloomberg administration's stop and frisk policy in the form of the Community Safety Act. I've been a critical component to the move to protect tenants' rights as it related to the HEAT Act in passing laws to penalize landlords who refuse to provide heat and hot water for their tenants. I helped to organize the community and build grassroots support that enabled then Governor Patterson to sign then Assemblymember Hakeem Jeffries and Senator Eric Adams' stop and frisk database bill into law. I'm the only candidate with a deep record of achieving changes in government through public policy reforms. I have a vision of moving our community forward I will work to preserve and expand truly affordable housing